Wakanda forever! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fat Man on Batman. I am not Kevin Smith, as I'm pretty sure you guys can all tell. Kevin is doing Kevin shit out in the world, which is like, millionaire playboy stuff, except nerd shit with the Flash. So he will be back with me next Saturday, this Saturday, the 24th. I don't know how dates work. For tonight, we wanted to have a kind of special post-Black Panther opening weekend discussion about all things Wakanda, all things T'Challa, all things that are changing lives and altering courses of destinies in the world. And then after that, I'm going to have a little roundtable conversation, which will be less a roundtable, more you know how you go to the movies and you hang out in the parking lot after the movie for like an hour and just talk about everything? We're going to pretend this is the parking lot. I've seen Black Panther now 3 times. I know I got my frequent flyer miles to Wakanda. I'm working on it. And every time I've seen it, my feeling about the movie's changed a little bit. The first time I saw it was at the premiere, which, because I got it like that. I call them favors. I don't really have it like that. Not anymore. And that experience was kind of profound for the weird feeling of Hollywood rallying around something that it had never really rallied around before. But I also didn't know what to expect out of the movie. I saw the trailers, I lived for the trailers, I reviewed the trailers, and talked about how much I felt like the movie was going to mean to me. And, I had built it up in my head, and even the build up in your head mated with the idea that I didn't know what the movie was. The trailers were incredibly non-specific. You watch those trailers, you're like, okay, well, I get that Michael B. Jordan is playing like Dwayne Wayne from Different World, but like really fucking bad. And like, I get that Wakanda is kind of a little bit like Zamunda, but like more badass. Like, you just get these weird impressionistic blushes of the movie, which is all I ever really want from a trailer. Like, I don't need you to tell me everything that fucking happens. Like, why go to a movie where I know, oh, hey, it's Jurassic World. Guess what happens? The monsters get out again. And, the pretty blonde dude has to save everything again. I didn't know what I was going to get going into Black Panther. And so my first viewing of it was first stripping away all of the kind of barnacled expectations I had for it for like 6 months and trying to drill down into what it was. And I found myself fascinated by the world. I found myself transfixed by everything that Ryan Coogler and his design department and his costume department just managed to summon for this movie. I mean, it looks unlike anything. Like, Wakanda is a more fully realized place than Asgard is. And we've had Asgard for a long fucking time. But, you never have a sense that if you walk down an alley in Asgard, you will find anything interesting. But I absolutely feel that if I end up lost in Wakanda, like, it is going to be the most amazing bad night I've ever had. Like, every character on that screen just popped. Like, they had so much energy and so much life, and it was funnier than I expected it to be. And I don't even know why I didn't expect it to be funny. Maybe it's because I didn't know what the fuck to expect. But Shuri is like a bolt of lightning from the skies, and she just enlivens every scene she's in. Nakia she has agency. She wants things. She's absolutely committed to expanding the Wakandan influence in the world and changing lives for the better. And Okoye is just the fucking most badass character I've seen on screen since Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok. I think the two of them should be friends. Like, they should just roll together. That would be amazing. Like, I would watch the fuck out of that movie. There's so much wonderfulness in that movie. And that's just the women. I mean, not even talking about Killmonger, really, who just fucking Michael B. just swaggers his way all over that movie. Like, it's, oh, I'm going to steal this from you. This belongs to me now. I'm sorry, T'Challa, this movie's mine. Every scene he's in, he's just totally absconding with it. And who the fuck knew that Winston Duke would be the dude we'd be talking about? Like, where'd he come from? How did M'Baku turn into this magnetic Sex Panther god person? And I'm super fucking thankful, because you do not see a bunch of thick brothers on screen that much anymore, just swallowing desire from the internet. I am thankful for him for ushering in a new age where dudes don't have to look like Chadwick or Michael B. They can have a little heft on them. But I was feeling like I was missing something a little bit the first time I saw Black Panther. There was all of it wasn't gelling for me in the way that I kind of hoped that it would. And then I saw it a second time. I saw it opening night. I went to the ArcLight Theater in Hollywood, went a couple blocks away. And it was a similarly moving experience. The way the premiere was like Hollywood royalty all came out dressed in African royalty garb. And it was like fucking black church. It was the best black church you've ever been to. The opening night was like the best barbecue you've ever been to, in that everybody was fucking there. Every black person I knew in Hollywood rolled out that night. Every black TV writer, every black movie writer, every person who is either of color or an ally decided that was going to be the night we were all going to kind of ingest this together. And the feeling in that room, the feeling in the parking lot, the feeling in the lobby, the feeling at the bar was just of, we did it, you guys. Like we have been for a very long time as black creatives in Hollywood trying our best to tell our stories, trying our best to get the little signposts of our cultural specificity on screen. But we've also been very acknowledging the idea that sometimes we've had to subsume some of that culture. Sometimes we've had to go along to get along. Sometimes you've had to, make compromises in order to get the work done. And Black Panther there's no compromises in that specificity. Like that is the blackest thing I've ever seen. And not even to say a bad way. Like Luke Cage was previously the blackest thing I'd ever seen. But that was a black I recognized. Like that was a black that I'd seen before. That was a street level, we're in Harlem, there's black people, there's gangsters, there's crime, there's whatever. Wakanda's the dream. Wakanda's the fairy tale. It's the Neverland that black kids never get to dream about. And that experience of being there with all these guys and ladies and women and children who had all been kind of wanting that was incredibly powerful. But I managed to put my finger on what that thing was that I felt like I was missing, which was I would ask people who was their favorite character, and nobody would ever say T'Challa. Nobody would ever be like, no, that thing that he did that one time was amazing. No, it's always, remember in the fucking Busan Casino when Okoye flips her wig at that dude? Amazing. Remember that scene when Shuri's like, what are those? Amazing. Like, there were scenes that everybody got to have that just popped with people. Every time T'Challa's on screen with another character, that character steals the scene. And, nobody steals a scene from Indiana Jones. Nobody steals a scene from James Bond. Nobody steals a scene from Shaft. Like those guys are the centers of those stories in a very real way. And for me, T'Challa was the center that didn't hold of Black Panther. And I love the movie. I can't get it. I've seen it 3 times. Again, I love the movie. But it took me a little while to start to wrestle with why I was not feeling the way I expected to be feeling about it. And it was because I didn't love T'Challa as much as I wanted to. And part of it is because he doesn't really want anything in this movie. Like T'Challa's narrative drive is, hey, I'm king, right? This is awesome. My dad did a bad thing one time. I didn't catch Claw. I'm king again, yay! That is his sort of narrative arc of that movie. And he's not driven by anything. He doesn't really want anything. And he has no flaws. T'Challa is like Indiana Jones if he wasn't afraid of snakes. It's just, he's perfect. And perfection is not dramatic. Perfection is not, you don't have the tension of will his lesser demons overweigh his greater angels? Will he succumb to his fatal flaws? Will he be weak when he needs to be strong? And you never got the feeling for a second that T'Challa would not be what he is. You never thought he would give up. You never thought, like, I'm going to the ancestral plane and I'm going to confront my dad. I'm like, you know what? It's cool. Death's fine. I did what I need to do, maybe. I don't know. Killmonger seems like a fuck up, but hey, like, that could have happened in a weird way. Or at least the story did not press us to the place where we thought that T'Challa would never do that. And it doesn't alleviate my love for the movie to recognize that for me there's a hero problem. There's often a hero problem when you have a character who's that noble, who's that upstanding, who's that committed to tradition and maintaining the Wakandan way of life. But I just wanted a little bit more. And then I saw it a third time. And the third time I took my son. We went Friday, like I pulled him out of school a little bit early. Don't tell his mother. He's a little bit sick, whatever. And so I went to go see with him, and we get 10 minutes into the movie, and I cried like a fucking baby in a way that I hadn't cried at all before. We got to the point in the movie where they're flying the Royal Talon fighter back to Wakanda for the first time. And Okoye is sitting there and she says, "We are home." And the home wrecked me. Because when you think of home, when you think of the concept of what home means, more often than not, it's where I grew up, it's where all my shit is, it's what home is. And then when you start kind of drilling down into what that means and the idea of a connection to a place and a connection to a people who know who you are from that place. Sure, I was born in the Bronx and I can go back to the Bronx and maybe somebody will have remembered me, and my father was born in Haiti, and so there's a world in which I could go back to Haiti, and I've done that and found a bunch of cousins I never met. But we're not from Haiti. Like my mother's parents are not from Trinidad or Barbados. They're from someplace else that I don't know. And I could do the DNA work and I can do the fucking genealogy tests and all of that stuff and maybe find a region in a continent that I can maybe point to and say that my people are from there. But it's not the same as being like an Italian who can point to a village in Sicily and say, "Oh no, we were there for hundreds of years." Or a Chinese person who can be like, "No, we were outside the Guangdong province, and if I go there, there's thousands of years that I can kind of trace I know I can point to a place and say that place is mine." And African Americans, by and large, don't have that place. And the idea that Wakanda is this almost impressionistic version of, but what if there was that place? What if you could have a place that you called home? And I started thinking about my son, who's getting to the age where he starts asking questions about identity and about, heredity and about, legacy and where he's from and who his people are. And I also think about when he was a kid, it's, all right, when do we tell him that the Santa Claus is a myth? When do we tell him that the Tooth Fairy's not showing up? When do we decide to abuse him of the sort of childhood fantasies that we were totally cool with? Let him believe in the magic. Let him believe in the fakery. Let him believe in the things we know aren't real, but they're pleasant fictions, and there's nothing wrong with a nice pleasant fiction. And then it was like, why can't Wakanda be that pleasant fiction? For a bunch of kids who've never had to ask that question before, for a bunch of parents who've had to sit there with children and try and explain to them what 400 years of slavery has done to the identity of an entire people. Let him have Wakanda. Let Wakanda be that for him. And that's the thing that affected me the most profoundly, that this was a movie that attempted to fill a void that I didn't even really recognize was there until it filled it for me, but what if it was like this? Wouldn't that have been amazing? For me, that's the hard work that this movie does. And it's not work that's done yet, it's not work that's over yet, but just the idea that you can create a piece of fiction, a piece of culture that feels as real as that does, that feels as lived in as that does. And you give characters who all have motivation, except for one, and agency, except for one, and then it's an inherently feminist story. I mean, you get to the end of that movie, and the climax is, oh, here's like 3 bad dudes, all at the tip of the spear of 3 women standing over them. The best warriors in this entire fictional place are female. And you get the sense that Ryan Coogler, like lots of black dudes, was raised with an incredibly strong mother in his house. And his mother was the one who set the rules and set the tone, and when he did bad shit in school, she was the one who punished him. And so for him, even behind the scenes, his director of photography was a woman, his costume designer was a woman, his design director was a woman, his editor was a woman. They will make this better. I'm good at this, but they will make it great. And Wakanda is the sort of the culmination of that idea, that we can make it good, they will make it great. And this movie, it is 2 things. It is what it is, and it's what it means. And what it is pretty fucking great. But what it means is titanic. What it means is tectonic. It shifts plates. It will reform the way Hollywood begins to think about culture, begins to think about movies, begins to think about the people who get to tell their stories. The first numbers, the box office estimates came in, and it made something like $213 million over the 4-day weekend. And that's just domestic. In 4 days, it made that much money. It took Justice League 90 days to make that much money. What Black Panther did in 4, it took Justice League 3 months. Now, not that I want to be the dude just fucking rolling out L's to DC and like, hey, sorry, fuck you. But the idea that if you let somebody tell their story, and if you know what that story is, the people will show up. The audience will respond. They will embrace the idea that even though none of these people look like me, even though this place is fake, even though all of this is invented drama, if it feels real, if it feels like the story behind it, if it feels like the themes that it's touching on are founded in some emotional truth, people respond to that. The same way they responded to Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman is not a perfect movie either. Wonder Woman falls off a cliff in the 3rd act. But for an hour and 10 minutes, that movie feels like it's the movie Patty Jenkins has been waiting her life to make. And she got the resources to do it. She convinced people to believe in her. She convinced them to do shit they didn't want to do. Like, it still pains me to think that nobody wanted to do the No Man's Land sequence until Patty Jenkins like dug her heels in. Was like, no, I believe this is what the movie's about. This scene is why we're making this movie. And if you don't do this, let's just stop. And she won that fight, and we get a movie, and we get something that changes the course of lives. You know, we get 7-year-old girls who suddenly think that, you know what, I can dig in my heels. You know what, I am worth as much, if not more, than anybody else here. You know, and you look at Black Panther, and there's, you know, young black kids, there's young black boys, young black girls who want to go into science, young black boys who have a girlfriend that they should be more afraid of. Like, all of these things, they get texture, and they get agency, and they get to exist in a way they haven't before. So I remain a little conflicted about the movie. You know, I have thoughts on how one fixes that movie, because I'm that guy who who is unwilling to let well enough alone. But I love that it exists. I love that it's doing as well as it's doing. I love that it gets so much fucking right, because, I mean, it's almost unheard of to get as much right as this movie gets right. And the fact that it's operating at such a high level on such a grand plane is you know, how lucky we are to be alive right now. So that is going to be my review for now. I mean, I don't know, we'll get to more later. But I want to introduce the panel who we've invited to come in and talk about Black Panther. They're hiding in the background there. Hey! Stop talking. Yeah, no, you. Come this way. All right, so I have 4 guests today. I'm not sure who's in front, but okay, yes, come this way. This is Akela Cooper, who was a writer-producer on Luke Cage, is currently showrunning her first show for Netflix. Grab a microphone.
Where do you want me?
Come around this way.
Okay.
This is LaToya Morgan, yay! Who was on both Turn Washington Spies and Into the Badlands, who knows everything about fucking Kung Fu. She will kick your ass, but for real. Deric A. Hughes, who has been working in genre TV since the 1940s. Most recently on The Flash, Black Samurai. I'm listening. I got a microphone in my hand. It's fucked up. You take a mic, you stand over there. And Evan Narcisse, who is a culture writer for IO9, Kotaku, and currently writing the sold out in most places Rise of the Black Panther comic book from Marvel. So yeah, everybody grab a mic. And I want to talk about, at the beginning, just your history with Black Panther. Like, how much did you guys bring to the movie? How much did you bring to the story? Personally, I was never a Black Panther stan as a kid. Like, I just wasn't. I knew of it. I saw him as he crossed over and intersected with a bunch of different characters, but I never read a Black Panther comic book until Ta-Nehisi started writing it. So tell me about your various and sundry experiences.
I mean, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say Same. Like, I grew up with a father who read comic books. That's why I'm a Marvel nerd. But, like, his favorite was Thor, oddly enough. And then I got into Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Deadpool as a kid. So I was aware of Black Panther, just kind of on the periphery, but I never grew up, like, reading him as a comic.
Yeah, I was definitely a Marvel kid, Spider-Man, X-Men represent, but yeah, I definitely love those. But Black Panther, I only started reading it with Ta-Nehisi and Roxane Gay, for sure. They were great.
I mean, I'm gonna take a while, so you might as well go.
I know you are. Hey. Damn. I think it was just a smattering of Black Panther here and there, you know, in the early '80s for me. It was like I'd see the Kirby.
He was only getting a smattering in the early 80s.
Yeah, I know. It really was. But it was just like I saw the cat, you know, literally. It was just like, oh, who's this guy? And then I went through the Kirby books, and you know, it was like I saw the stories in there, and you know, his interactions with the Fantastic Four, and then of course Christopher Priest's run much later. It was that, you know, that was kind of interesting, but it never really resonated with me other than just knowing who T'Challa was, knowing that his inner involvement, it always seemed like he was an outsider in more ways than one. So I never like actively sought out Black Panther books, you know, other than just questioning like, is he ever going to get his own book, is he get his runs and stuff like that. And so again, like when the Christopher Priest run came out, you know, I was like, I read it, but I wasn't like into it. I thought it was interesting, but for whatever reason, it just never.
You fucked up too.
Yeah, it just never. It was like, it never really was like, okay, you know, it's changing my life. But of course, by that time in my life, I was already on to different things. So.
Yeah. Now, Evan, you're the motherfucker who every time somebody asks me, so tell me, when did the Dora Milaje show up for the first time in the comics? I'm like, ask Evan. Like Evan is the deep dive scholar.
I mean, it's weird because it's funny. Like you think of fandom as a spectrum, right? And I don't consider myself like a deep end dude. Like I know there's people out there who know more than me. But my thing, like as a critic and now as a writer of these stories, is like how do you use what you know? Like to directly answer the question, T'Challa's been my favorite superhero since I was a kid. I can tell you the first time I encountered the character, and then when I fell in love with the character. First time I read him was like in a reprint of an old Avengers series from like the 60s and 70s. And then I read Don McGregor's Panther's Prey series, which I think was 95.
Sure.
Let's go with that.
It's drawn by Dwayne Turner, beautiful art. Then I went back and looked at the other Don McGregor stuff, and he's a guy who really gave T'Challa a soul. And you know, I've basically checked for T'Challa my entire life. I'm that dude who would like show up to the comic book shop, see an issue of Daredevil with Black Panther on the cover, like, okay, well, I guess I'm buying this, even if I wasn't buying Daredevil at the time. Like all the guest appearances, I just held on for so long for T'Challa to get like his own book and have somebody to like really love him and take care of him. And that person after McGregor wound up being Christopher Priest, and that run is, I mean, iconic and stellar. And I'm a huge Priest stan, so don't get me started. So I've been involved with T'Challa like most of my, you know, pre-adult and adult life. And now I'm writing the comic, which is a whole other thing.
Oh, that's right. You are writing the comic.
Yeah, I'm writing. Yeah.
Go pick it up.
I heard it's pretty awesome.
That was not a planned bit, by the way. Like
Dreams, they do come true.
Yeah, I know.
And what was everybody's feelings when they first heard that Marvel was going to do a Black Panther movie?
That's about damn time.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up.
Because there's 100 ways they could have fucked this up.
Oh my God.
You know.
Well, that's the thing though, because like, you know, Wesley Snipes had it back in the 90s. Yeah. And you know, back then it was very questionable. I mean, look, it's Wesley Snipes, but at the same time, there wasn't a template for this, right? You know, as like I was joking with a buddy of mine today. I said Marvel basically has the blueprint now. They're like Jay-Z. They're showing people like this is the blueprint, but other studios keep fucking up and not following the blueprint. But at that time there was no blueprint, so it could have been 100 different ways of like, you know, like I said, don't fuck it up. But when they announced it, it was like because it was Marvel and knew it was doing it. By that time, I was like, okay, it's going to probably be something special.
Yeah, I remember debating with like another friend of mine. He was just like, "It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. They're never gonna do it." I'm like, there's phase 3. They might get to us. And then I was like working on the 100 when our writer's assistant was like, "Akela, have you seen this?" And I'm like, "Seen what?" And it was like the day that they announced it, like at their trade expo.
The D23.
Yeah, the D23.
Yeah.
And she was like, "They're gonna do a Black Panther, and it's Chadwick Boseman." And I was like, "Yes." Because like my top choices in like fantasizing about it, I was like, I had always pictured, oddly enough, like Michael B.
Will
Jordan.
Smith?
No, Michael B. Jordan as a young T'Challa.
Every studio was Will Smith though.
No, for me it was always Chiwetel.
Chiwetel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
It just wouldn't have been bad either.
Oh, that's a good one too.
But that's the Idris clause. You got to consider him for any high-profile black starring role
Or
and
any
not
starring
black.
role, yeah. So we're making a Dukes of Hazzard. How do we feel about Idris as Bo Duke?
I had seen.
Is he be okay with the fucking?
Note to self:
Dixie
Dukes
on
of
the roof?
Hazzard's reboot with Idris Elba.
I had seen 42 at the time, so I was like, yes, that makes sense. I am down with this.
Yeah, he's playing like every famous person.
Every-
He's like
everyone.
Marshall, Thurgood Marshall.
so why not,
He's
right?
Like, I mean, come on. How can he not do Black
I
Panther?
saw the joke that was he's gonna wind up playing himself.
Or he's gonna play Meryl Streep.
So
Like what?
I was a little bit, when they announced that Coogler was going to direct it, I was excited because I fucking love Creed to death. I was a little concerned for him in that we've all seen and heard about directors who end up in the Marvel machine and end up getting ground up by the Marvel machine. And I'm like, this dude's made 2 movies. Let him mature as an artist. Let him find his footing. Let him make a bunch of shit before he gets a $200 million
Ain't that
movie.
the same argument they used for Barack Obama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Come
but like,
on.
Experience.
I wanted him to have. I wanted him to have like the Spike Lee career.
Yeah.
Like I wanted him to have just like a fucking bunch of shit under his belt, movies that meant everything to him, just art, make art for like a decade.
Meanwhile,
And
he's
then
like, "Bitch, I'm going to Africa.
And he
if
can still
I get
do
nothing
that,
else
though.
out of this, I'll go to Africa."
He can still do that though, and now he has the power to be like, you know what? It's like we're not doing Black Panther 2 yet, so I'm gonna go make this little indie movie that I want to make.
he
And
gotta say-
someone's gonna
they're gonna
like,
back up the-
actors are gonna come to him, and someone's gonna finance that shit.
They're gonna back up the money truck now,
Yeah.
because they're saying like it's gonna make $1 billion in less than 3 weeks, and he's just like, yeah, I can do anything.
Pretty much.
and they gotta lock him up for Black Panther 2, which he is not contracted for.
I mean, I remember hearing that announcement, like that D23 announcement, and I guess I was still at Kotaku at the time, and I had to kind of pitch my editor. I was like, "Look, we should hit this. Like, this is gonna be huge." And so he let me do it. I remember writing up like, I think the headline of the piece was like, "Marvel's Phase 3 movies are gonna be their riskiest and most important ones yet," and like I gave myself a migraine that day because it was just like, how do I communicate the pressure of how much they need to get Black Panther right? Like Captain Marvel, yes. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure that, but like for me, from a personal perspective, it was like, they really can't fuck up Black Panther. Like they can't. Like this is your one shot to be like, okay, we get y'all. Don't fuck it up. Yeah, but I wrote
guess
the piece.
I was the only one who was not afraid that when he was announced that he was going to take the reins. I was
happy.
Yeah, no, I was I'm not saying
I'm like,
I
you
wasn't
get that
like
studio money.
Get that check.
yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh my God, the machine is going to chew him up. I thought the bravado that was in Creed was so fantastic and so amazing that if they were going to tap him to do Black Panther, that they were going to put the right team around him.
The one scene in Creed that made me feel like Ryan could do it was when
One shot, come on now.
the
The single, come on,
it
man.
was the hair braiding actually for me, because that's like that's such an important scene, because it's like that shows care between characters in a really intimate way, and it's something that like you have to know Black people to know like that, how that shit goes down, and that made me feel like, okay, you can communicate this on the screen. So that made me feel like it was like similar to when I saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, that Shane Black movie with Robert Downey Jr. Val Kilmer.
Iron Man. Iron Man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Tony Stark.
You're not
Tony
familiar
Stark.
with his work?
Yeah, but that made me feel like, oh, he could do this. Like he could like play some like super bravado, cocky, intricately like fucked up character. Like that made me feel like he could do it. So that was the same thing.
Yeah. I remember I did a roundtable for the Hollywood Reporter, like 3 years ago, I think. And I was talking about sort of race in Hollywood, as Oscars so white and whatever, and Justin Simien, Alan Yang, and Stephanie Elaine were on the panel. And I voiced my tiny concern that I was just hoping that Ryan would get more time to be an artist. I want Ryan to be Ryan. And Justin leans over and was like, don't fucking worry about Ryan. Ryan's gonna be fine.
I mean, it's the thing is, the great achievement of this movie is that, like, he made a personal movie that's also a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So let's talk about the movie. We've all seen it, right?
Yep.
Some of us multiple times.
Yep.
Real quick,
3.
I want to put this out there because I have to give props also to Joe Robert Cole,
Yes.
the other writer, because there's been so many think pieces talking about Ryan Coogler, but my man Joe started it. You know, it's like it starts on the page, and as a writer, it's irritating when we get ignored, and it's like, especially in features, right? It's like they think it just magically happens. Like the director comes in and like, ta-da, it's story, and it's just like, not to take anything away from Ryan, because yes, he did put his blood, sweat, and tears into it, but it's the other part of the equation was definitely Joe Cole.
I had a chance to meet Joe at the premiere, and he's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
And like, he's super thoughtful, and it's funny because they're both really thoughtful.
Yes.
Like, so you can see how like already people who are like ready to like figure out the logic of this world and these characters, like putting their heads together. Like my brief conversations with him let me figure out like, okay, yeah, you had like an integral part in this.
Yeah, I think, didn't he work on The People versus OJ as well?
Yes.
He has like
Yeah.
such great nuance with character, so script is in good hands.
I also think he was like part of the Marvel writers camp because he was supposed to do a standalone Falcon movie
Right.
at one point that like got killed, but then they were like, hey, we like you, why don't you write Black Panther?
No, it was actually War Machine. It
Oh,
was
War Machine. Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably back up.
Poor Rhodey.
It's like what else we got? We got Falcon.
War Machine.
And War Machine. Oh,
Who else?
What about that character, Monica Rambeau? What's she doing? What's she up to?
What about Storm, man? Where's the Storm movie? I'm waiting on that. Come on,
Yes, I mean, although for my money,
Well, once Disney buys Fox,
Come on, let's get
I don't
back
think we
cracking.
ever see a War Machine movie.
Yeah.
I don't think you do, because I think if I'm Disney right now, if I'm Marvel right now, and I know that RDJ is gonna at some point phase out of this, but you need somebody in
Riri.
fucking armor. Not even fucking Shuri.
Shuri.
Don't even Riri that shit, because I love Riri Williams. I'm all down for that. But Marvel doing like, how many people in the real world know Riri Williams, and now how many people know Shuri?
Shuri, that's true.
And you
It's
just-
Shuri Williams.
Shuri.
What?
Yeah.
That's her Oakland moniker, Shuri Williams.
Well, the one that I'm waiting on and really see, hopeful that they're going to announce it in their Phase 4 is Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're overdue. They're so overdue.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the movie. We didn't
Yes.
get into that.
Back to
I have waxed already about how I feel about the movie. How
Well,
does
we
the rest
didn't
of the
hear
panel-
it. We were
Yeah,
back
I
there,
noticed you
so
did that
we didn't
without-
know. Yeah.
Without us
we
in the
weren't
room.
here,
Yeah.
so we didn't really hear you back there.
Suddenly, I feel like a colonizer. So no, tell me what you guys thought.
I loved it.
Oh,
I saw it.
So
I just
good.
came from seeing it for the 4th time today. So.
Wow, you got me beat. I've seen it 3 times. I mean, I've loved it every time I've seen it. Like the first time I saw it was like super emotional. I mean, I'm coming at this from multiple vectors. I've been a fan my entire life. I wrote about Black Panther as a critic and how important the character's been to me. And I'm writing this series. Like, they just got me, right? I'm in the bag. So at the premiere, like literally from the first line, I'm like bawling. Baba, tell me a story. Tell me about home. But then the second time I started a press screening in Austin, and I figured, okay, you're cool. You got all that out, right? You're good. You're good. You can keep it together. And again, like, just doing the dance like this, and Warrior Falls, and I'm like, oh, show him who you are. I'm like, oh my God. Again. So yeah, I loved it. Like, it's like, I'm gonna take this movie like vitamins, like as often as possible.
Bruh, I want to real quick. I walked out of the theater. I was like, I gotta shave my head. It's like I'm gonna get a spear. I don't care. I didn't say it. I don't care. There was no men, but you know what? It's like it was like choop 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 choop. Right?
That's a great thing about the movie.
When that came on in the club, I was like, break it down, Okoye, fuck these motherfuckers up.
But that's a great thing that I loved about the movie. It's like, being a black woman, I don't know if you've noticed, but I am. we're kind of used to like taking a back seat to everything. So like when the trailer came out, I was just like, yes, I get to see someone who looks kind of like me, but is not necessarily my gender. Because when the trailer for Wonder Woman came out and I saw Wonder Woman, I'm like, this is fun, but like not me. But then when the Black Panther trailer dropped, I was like, oh fuck yes. And like you start seeing like the Dora Milaje Okoye kicking ass. I'm like, okay, so there'll at least be a scene of like a black woman kicking ass in that movie. And then I see the movie and it's like there are multifaceted black women in this movie kicking ass.
All
like,
of them were so good.
Being in mode, like having depth. I was just shocked and so appreciative. I'm like, I actually don't kind of have to take a backseat. I can enjoy this on multiple levels, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, and it wasn't just in front of the camera either. It was behind the scenes as well. You know, you had a great DP, Rachel Morrison. You had the costume designer, Ruth Carter, who was fantastic.
Hannah Beachler.
Who was
Shout
the
out to
production
Hannah Beachler.
designer.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it was just such strong women on screen and behind the camera as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing there's that scene in the trailer. I mean, it's in the trailer, it's in the movie, it's everywhere. When that royal shuttle first burst through the
Yeah.
and if you look at the fucking, like the blaster, the whatever, the engine glow from the back of it, there's African symbols morphing, twisting, just pulsing back and forth. I'm like, they spent money on that. Somebody had to design that. That's not cheap. That's expensive.
Yeah.
It could just be Millennium Falcon blue and that'd be fine. But
Right.
no, it's got to be like kente cloth.
Yeah.
Just fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Now, I did speak a little bit about where I felt the movie didn't quite work for me. I'm calling it the T'Challa problem.
Why you gotta hate, Marc?
I know.
Why? Why? I just want to know.
Chadwick Boseman.
You don't speak.
I will remind you, motherfuckers, this is my house.
Glory to Anuma.
My problem was, as I told the people, and you weren't listening, but whatever, is that T'Challa, whenever he's on screen with anybody else, is the least interesting person on screen. His story is incredibly one note in a way, which is, hey, 10 minutes in, I'm king. You know, it'd be awesome if I was king. I'm still king. King's awesome. Oh shit, I'm not king. And then I'm king again. Like, he's not driven by
But he's
a
king
want.
by title, but he's not mentally there, because even when he confesses to his father, he says, I don't know if I can do this without you.
Yeah.
And he's still, it's like,
know?
I
No,
think
y'all,
it's-
y'all gotta do this. That'll slow things down.
But I also think his journey is like, his question is like, what kind of king am I going to be? And like, do I follow in the ancestors' footsteps? And his choice at the end is like, no, fuck that. Like, we clearly need a change.
Yeah, I mean, I get the cerebral move.
Yeah.
But like, the only thing he, like, the Ark of the Covenant for him in that movie exists for like 10 minutes, and that's Claw.
Yeah.
I gotta get Claw. I'm gonna go to a fucking casino and blow up a casino to get Claw. And I fucked that up. But that's all he really wants. That's the only object that's driving him in the scenes. He's very reactive for the rest of the movie. He's a passive character.
Well,
I mean, you go, Deric. You go.
I was going to say, he's not so much a passive character because he's reactive to the fact that the sins of his father are now thrust upon him.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what Eric Killmonger's, is because of his father's actions.
And I think he wants justice, which not to sound corny, but like he wants justice in a way that for me was really palpable. Like when he's talking to his dad on the ancestral plane the second time, he's like, "Why didn't you bring the boy home?" And I felt that shit in my chest. Like that was like real outrage. And then, I feel like him wanting to right that wrong was the thing that animates the back half of the movie, or the last third of the movie. Like I felt like he really, really wanted that. Like in the middle somewhere, like, yeah, I get you, it was a little bit mushy. But like the minute Killmonger shows up in that throne room, his whole world is turned upside down.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also he showed some colors with...
You can't use it to both shut somebody up and applaud somebody. You gotta pick a fucking lane.
Why? She's just defying tradition.
Look what y'all started, man. No, but
We
he
were friends
showed
before this.
he showed some colors with the women. I have to say. So like there was the love story with Nakia.
But was it though, really?
He was trying.
It
He
was.
trying to get there. Stop. Come
no.
on, man. There was love.
He
Come on.
brought her back around to like loving him.
Just
and
because you
giving
got a
him second
vibranium
chance.
heart and it just can't let emotion in, it was there. All
Then
right.
there was all the great moments with his sister. My God, all the stuff with
What
Shuri
are
was.
those?
Come on, that was fantastic. That was awesome. And then he had his general who had his back all the time. Come on.
Yeah.
And his mama had his back, like usually black mamas do.
But that scene, but that scene where they're all like laying on hands to try to bring him back from the dead, that was very emotional
Praying to
for
the
me.
ancestors. Yeah. No.
That was great.
I kept wanting Zuri, not Zuri, what's her face? Like Ramonda to be Adora. Like I wanted her at the end of the movie.
She would put on armor.
Yes, like, can you keep my mom here? Can you keep her safe? So fuck you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yourself, motherfucker.
I agree with that.
Well,
'cause
look,
I
Angela
said
Bassett's
that.
got American Horror Story and 911. She got to take a break at some point, to,
But she was.
Hey,
that-
speaking of real quick about Angela Bassett, there was a moment when I was watching and there's like, please just let her lift up her arms and summon a rain cloud.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, just do it. Just go ahead and do it, Storm. Reveal that it's Storm.
just a little thing I
It's
picked up along the way.
Exactly.
But she had that one. So when they were going to the Jabari lands, and Nakia comes up with Ross, she had that thing out. She was like, she pulled out that ring blade. She was like, who the fuck you?
Yeah,
So she was ready to go. So I mean, I feel like the movie was serviced a lot by little grace notes like that let you know. Like there's that one exchange between Shuri and T'Challa in the lab, and she's like, not like your suit, your design. That lets you know that okay,
Functional.
right?
Yeah.
That lets you know he's still a scientist. He can still build shit. He's still hot shit. But she's just better. So and that little rapport between them.
Well, it was like, I think Kevin Feige said she's the smartest character in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
That was like in the movie universe.
Smarter than Tony Stark. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
16 years old.
So now, what do you guys think happens going forward? What do you think this does in Hollywood? And both on a macro level and on a personal level. Like, how does this
I'm
affect the
curious
way
to
you guys...
see how people are going to dress for the Oscars next right?
You just want to see like Black Panther mask all over the place.
Right?
I mean, it's funny. I've been doing a lot of interviews this past month about Black Panther shit, and I've been saying my constant refrain has been, I just want black creators in Hollywood to have decision-making power and trust and leeway. Like, like this, clap for that. Like this movie happens because Ryan, had a vision. Ryan and Joe and all their creative team had a vision. They executed on it. Was Marvel involved? Sure. Nate Moore on the Marvel side is a producer who shepherded this project into being great guy. But ultimately, you can feel the trust in this movie. It feels personal. They took that shit back to Oakland, like literally and figuratively. One of the questions I always have to answer is, does the Black Panther superhero have any connection to the Black Panther Party? And it's inconclusive, right? But what Ryan did, and everybody did on that movie, is they made it explicit. Like, guess what? Yeah, black empowerment, black self-determination, self-love. Like all that Black Panther shit that from the real world is connected to their character now. And that's essentially canon in millions of people's brains. And that's an amazing thing. I want more of that to happen.
Well, even the historical stuff with Njobu, right? It's the fact that the reason why he was raising that army in the first place was because it was 1992, the same time as the riots, right? And so it was he saw it with firsthand of what was going on at that time, and that's why so automatically you already understand his point of view. Was it right? That's questionable, but there is a point of view, and it just it made the world, it shaped that world. So
it didn't feel like it was something that was wrought by committee.
Yeah, I will never put it past a studio executive to keep their head in the sand. But I tweeted about this earlier today. It's Luke Cage broke Netflix the Saturday it premiered. Was it Moonlight won Best Picture? Girls Trip made over $100 million, and it was an R-rated comedy starring 4 black women. And now Black Panther has sailed past $200 million domestically, something like $300 million worldwide.
Almost 230 by tomorrow, apparently.
Yeah, and it's
so.
you can't ignore this. If your goal is we have a product and this product needs to make money, there's an entire cash flow over here that you've been ignoring. And we're just like, no, we have money and we want to see stories that represent us. So give us that and we'll give you our money. It's simple fucking financial math.
I mean, the tricky thing here is that this is not an easily replicable formula, right? Like Wakanda's just ain't sitting around out there to be made into fucking multi-million-dollar movies. Like, and even for Marvel, like if they want to replicate this formula, they're gonna have to like figure some shit out.
There's gonna be a lot of disappointed people trying to find their way to Wakanda this summer.
Yes.
I'm still waiting to see if anybody will ask Donald Trump hey, so how are the Wakandan-U.S. relations going?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he doesn't know it's not a fake place.
Right. He does not.
He does not know.
I think too, everything doesn't have to be Black Panther. I'm glad that it exists.
Yes.
It's a huge movie and it's amazing the numbers that it's done. But I would be just as happy as if Netflix, who is throwing money at all kinds of stuff, would do 100 Moonlights. You know what I mean? They have $100 million to throw around to give to some people. So why not throw it to
Good
some
stories,
creators
good characters,
of creators of color? Yeah.
I mean, look, a shout out to Black Lightning. Again,
Yeah.
that was another one where they allowed the creators be able to really tell the story and really deliver on a level that is just raised the bar over there at the CW. And it's like what was irritating was like last year when Get Out came out, right? Phenomenal movie, right? We can all agree upon that, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah. You can change his name
Jordan
though.
is Black.
No, actually, I
you
have a friend named Jordan Black. It's and Jordan Peele killed it, and it's like, but it was that notion of like, well, it was only a $4 million movie, and they treat it as a fluke, like, oh, well, it was just the timing of it, and it's a horror movie, and people just wanted to see that, and then it's back to business as usual. Girls Trip makes over $100 million, but it's like, well. That's just that movie, It just happened to have Tiffany Haddish and they have this, and it has Jada Pinkett, and it's like, and they treat it like these flukes. It's like this time around they can't treat it like a fluke. There's just no way to make the excuse of like the old excuses of like, well, it doesn't do well internationally. Black films don't do It's like that's why we can't market them. It's like
I would love to believe that.
Yeah.
But we've been doing this for a long.
Absolutely,
No,
but
right.
I think
You're right.
I will say
the voice of change is us.
the voice of change is us.
it's-
But Avatar made $279 billion.
Yes.
They were not greenlighting original IP from strong creative minds, even advancing technology. It was still, let's do another sequel to this. Let's remake that.
Right.
Let's
It was
do that.
because it was still James Cameron, though.
It's still
That's
James
why.
Cameron.
That's
but
where
even,
it was in there.
even in success, even in monumental success,
Yeah.
Hollywood is always afraid of doing the thing that feels a little bit different, or that they don't even have any sense of comfort in. And the idea, I mean, I would love for this to mean that not we get 100 Black Panthers,
No.
but that you get creators of diverse backgrounds who get to tell their stories.
Yes.
And those stories could also be featuring white people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, I don't need it to be the blackest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I wouldn't mind, but I don't need it to be. But
Well, I'm working on a screenplay called Vanta Black. So, it's going to be just black people. And it's going to be on black pages with black lettering. So, it's like, we're like, boom. Well, we can't
None more
read it.
black.
I'm like, it's black though, ain't it?
Well, like Coco last year
I love that movie.
it's a beautiful movie, hyper specific. Like
Yes.
that movie,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it a lot online and in person. The idea that cultural specificity breeds universality.
Yep.
The idea that like this means something to this person, and they found the ways to dig into the nooks and crannies, and they found ways to make it alive, and that means that other people can find their way into it too.
When I saw Black Panther for the second time, I saw it with two friends, one Mexican and one Filipino. And the Filipino woman was saying, like she was crying too. And the thing about Black Panther is, if you are living in a predominantly white environment, if you are from somewhere else and you have these feelings of dissonance with your home culture, of broken history, of not knowing how to seat yourself in the legacy and the history that spawned you, like that's universal. Yeah. Like Ryan went at that very culturally specific feeling he had about his own black identity in relation to Africa, made a movie about it, and then the specificity of it let it become universal. And like, the fact that there's, dozens, hundreds of of variations of that kind of story out there is like super exciting. Why the fuck aren't we getting them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, I will say this. One last thing about that. It's like my friend, white guy, kid is about 7 or 8 years old, and he was just telling me the other day that he took his kid to see Black Panther, and now he's like cleared his slate. Like everything is Black Panther. All the toys, everything like that. And it's like it's so great to hear that. It's like that this kid is pouring himself into that role of Black Panther and not questioning like, well, he's a black guy, I can't do that. It's the same way that we've done it, because like the first comic book I read was a Spider-Man comic book when I was 7 years old, and I dreamed about moving to New York and being just like Peter Parker. And not stopping to think about
broke all the time,
like that.
fucked up girlfriend,
exactly.
Best friend tried to kill you.
Oh yeah, no, I had a dream that I was gonna live in Soho. I had no idea what Soho was, and I was like,
It's not in Queens though.
no,
so,
and it was like, and I'm gonna, live, I'm gonna chill over at Central Park again, having no idea, and then I'm gonna work at Marvel, is the thing. But the idea that we've had to do that, like from things like, again, Spider-Man, E.T., all these things that we see ourselves as those characters, but never stopping to think about like, well, they don't look like me. They're just like, well, I can relate to them. They're still kids. They're still this. And now we have a generation that is actually seeing this on the screen, larger than life, that's representing a black superhero. But again, they're seeing it in the same way that we've always felt. And I think that's, fantastic.
This came out like a couple weeks ago, or maybe like over Christmas, but it was when I guess Target or something had released their Black Panther toy set, and they released the ad, and it was a little black boy, his sister, and their white friend playing in their backyard pretending to be Black Panther. Like, I never had that as a kid.
Yeah, my colleague Charles Pulliam Moore wrote a piece about that, because he was like, this commercial, like, I know maybe we shouldn't be blogging about a commercial, but I need to fucking blog about this commercial. Because he's like, this is what I wanted when I was a kid. And, like, the fact that hopefully our kids will not be wanting for this is significant.
Representation matters.
Does.
It really does. That's it.
So, at least 4 out of 5 of us work in television. We work in Hollywood actively. Sorry, Evan.
It's all right. No, it's all good. It's all good. I write comics.
Yeah. How do you think this is going to impact your kind of day-to-day work in the industry? How do you think listen, you cannot shout down every white person in every room.
You're like,
but
you don't want to be alone with that. You'd be like, nobody's got my back. No.
I'm not gonna lie. There was like a sense where it's like, if you're in a stressful situation with a white person, like the Friday after I saw the movie, it crossed my mind. I was like, I'm not gonna take this shit from you. I've been in Wakanda. I don't have to take this.
I got my visa. You can't stop me.
Like I've seen what we can do.
I'm just curious, like how people are gonna be treating their black colleagues and work come tomorrow. It's like how they gonna. It's like at like the day after Obama won, everybody was like, "How you doing? Everything's great." It's
Do
not
you
gonna
need
be
a
tomorrow.
Danish?
Exactly.
or something else more culturally specific to you that's
Right.
not Danish. What you guys eat? Yeah. Not Danish.
There's that meme that's floating around with Bradley Whitford from Get Out saying, I seen Black Panther for the third time or something like that. It's like,
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, is this the time when everybody starts dusting off? There's like, here's my super black thing that I have. It's time to go pitch this shit.
Well, something that I noticed, and it was starting after Get Out last year, when I would have development stuff. Like I had 2 projects where like the pod, like the producer only, whatever that D stands for, was basically like pitching me something that like I had read on the page. It's like when you don't have like a racial description of the main character, I was like, okay, they're probably white. But then they were like, actually, no, it's like we're looking to cast like a black woman for this or a black lead for this. And I'm like, oh, you're bringing this to me. I don't have to like tell you, oh, that's fun.
That's new.
that is a whole new experience. And I'm like writing a spec feature now that like has interest. And so like normally I'd have been like, okay, I'm going to like politely suggest maybe you make the lead character black. And now I'm just like, you can make money off of this if it's a black lead, right? Yeah. Right?
Have you met Winston Duke? Winston Duke is working.
So yeah, it's like I feel like having started in this business something like 14 years ago, it was always a thing where I was like, I'm gonna do that Shonda thing where I'm gonna like create a show with a white lead so that like my next show I can like have the power to create a black lead. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't.
The one for them, one for me, literally.
Yes. And I feel like I don't have to do that anymore. I feel like I can go in and I'm like, yes, this is my script. It has black people in it. Deal with it. Buy it, please.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a temperature change where people are more receptive to having ideas that were with people of color. I know in my network, I brought them a book for something about the Black Lives Matter movement that I talked to them about and soft pitched them. And I was like, you've never done anything like this on your network ever before, but this is something that I'm interested in, and they were game. So I think the tides are changing.
Excellent. All right, listen, I think it's time to open this up to the room. Like, I'm sure you guys all have feelings and thoughts and dreams, and
That guy does.
we got a bunch of this. All right, let's start with, oh, he's got a Zamunda t-shirt on. Well done.
I was wearing a Zamunda t-shirt earlier today, actually. Neighboring nation of Wakanda.
Number one, just the idea that we all watched a $200 million movie that had mostly black actors. I tried to count how many white actors in there. I got to make it like
two.
There's
Not
two.
including the UN scene at the end, maybe.
Yeah.
No, Everett Ross and Claw.
Background actors too.
Oh.
There was 15, except for the UN scene at the end. That was amazing.
Claw has a buddy.
That's true.
Oh yeah, so 3.
It's, you mean the buddy that has the SoundCloud link?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, how come the internet hasn't done that yet? Made the SoundCloud link of clouds like, what is love? That would hurt me, right? It's like someone needs to do like take that and make a
Claw's mixtape.
Right,
Volume
Claw's
1.
mixtape. Come on, internet, don't let me down.
Can I also say that Reginald Hudlin also was a big writer?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I know he's been doing the rounds and stuff, but man, his stuff was great as well.
Look, there's a lot of influence, of Reggie Hudlin, Brian Stelfreeze, Christopher Priest. I mean, it's like Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's like
Jonathan Hickman.
Yep. It's and you can see all of that come together. But that's Marvel. They know how to make that stew.
And all, it's just a great time to be African American in this business. I mean, I've been working in this business for about 17 years. Started in Philadelphia. I worked on Rocky Balboa. I worked in New York for 10 years. It came out here last year, and I got to work with Anthony Hemingway for the second time on Unsolved, which comes out soon. And it's just like, it's a great time to be black in this business and see what's going on. I had a friend of mine who actually worked on Luke Cage season 2. Damian Resnick. He was one of the UPMs.
Oh, okay. I think I've met him.
He said to me, he goes, I'm reading the scripts, and there's a lot of scenes where these guys that have already shot at Luke Cage, and they know he's bulletproof. They keep shooting at him. And doesn't that get old? I go, it never gets old, Damien. It never gets old. Never. I watch that till the end of the time. But I just want to say. Maybe they think he's having a bad day. Like maybe he's not as bulletproof.
Yes.
Maybe he forgot to put lotion
Maybe
on.
this one
But
time.
trust us, we had that conversation in the room as well.
But I want to bring up Eric Killmonger because when watching the film, my first thought after the film, I discussed with my wife and then I talked with a couple of friends online, was that I agree with a lot.
Killmonger was right.
He needed a little bit more smoothing around the edges, but a lot of what he was.
And maybe a little less genocide.
Yeah.
How about like the woman killing too? He like killed a Dora Milaje, just like. Psh.
Yeah.
And he shot his
And he
girlfriend.
shot his
And
girl.
I know
He's
that,
like, bye, bitch.
also people
I'm
are
like,
saying that he's a
come on, man.
liberator, but actually he's a bit selfish because it was all selfish ambitions that were played out.
I mean, he's a child that never got to fully grow up to a certain extent, but he also seems to me like somebody that grew up in that kind of like the spook that sat by the
door.
By the door, and that same really or Plan B by Chester Himes. He was kind of in that zone.
Yeah.
He's trying to learn his oppressor's ways, come up through them, and then use it against them. That was such an interesting
also I haven't seen it, but this is my theory. I was like, he's freaking Bruce Wayne without the money. It's like he didn't have the privilege. So it's like, and this is what would happen to Bruce Wayne. It's like he had to,
get somewhere, and the idea
because he's just as crazy.
is what makes him such a great villain to T'Challa. And T'Challa is a character that most of the movie is just reacting to shit that happens to him.
Okay, you're not alone.
And it's only at the end, after Eric's influence, that he finds a path forward.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
it's
why-
also Nakia. It's like Nakia's,
She was saying that shit from the beginning.
Nakia was right. That is true.
Everybody but T'Challa was right. I'm sorry. But it's true though.
Yeah.
And that's it's part of the black community that we have strong women that deal with a lot of things that help nurture us and matriculate us to where we need to go. And that, because it's a part of black culture, it's a part of Black Panther. And hopefully, on a second film, that hopefully is just like all Wakanda history and all in Wakanda. Because I can spend 8 months in Wakanda, let alone just a couple hours. But hopefully the second movie delves into that a little bit more, and T'Challa comes into his own as a king.
Yes.
We got a brother holding up his arm.
Yeah, he's hurting himself.
You're welcome.
A question would be awesome.
I was like, wait, what's the question?
I'm a film student. I moved out here a few years ago, and my purpose was, I did not see what I felt was myself represented on screen, and I wanted to do something to change that. And so it's
What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now?
Make movies, right?
I got stuff written. I'm shooting stuff. Like, it's exciting.
Twas a joke.
I'm finishing up my sophomore year.
He's a film student. They're like, it's
Yeah,
like
you were being
definitely.
like seriously hard on a film student.
The door is opening.
Yes.
But my question to you is, as I was watching the movie, I got a larger sense of metaphoric meaning in the story, especially when T'Challa said to his father, "Why didn't you bring him home?" For me, that was like us.
Yeah.
And why didn't Africa come get us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, I was almost on the verge of tears, because I was just like, my father grew up in the segregated South. He marched with Martin Luther King. His great-grandmother was a slave, and she that said the same thing, that they never came and got us. I just want to know, like, were there things in the movie that moved you that emotionally to where you wanted to bring it to, I know you said,
Yeah, no, I fucking lost it. I am also a notorious crier, so it does not take that much. Not as notorious as Kevin is, because Kevin will cry at the closing of a joint container. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing but sort of metaphor and deep meanings and parallels and resonances in the movie. Even that bit at the end when Killmonger, spoilers, has a spear in his chest, and he's looking out at Wakanda, and he's like, to think that a kid from Oakland could ever dream
Yes.
of something, of a fantasy world,
Of a fairy tale.
of a fairy
Running
tale.
around believing in fairy tales.
running around believing in fairy tales.
Just the idea that so many black kids, so many black adults, so many adults, period, are not allowed to indulge their dreams. Because there's the exigencies of the world. Like, you got to pay bills, you got to do whatever, you got to get shit done that doesn't leave enough time for you to dream anymore. And yes, there's a super metaphor that, like, Ryan Coogler is also a kid from Oakland who decided to, like, raise himself up and believe in dreams and make this fucking thing happen. Like, we're watching the texture, the tapestry of his dreams writ large. Like, that's super powerful. But even just for yourself, like, still believe in the dreams, still don't ever let them go, because those, at the end of the day, are the fuel that will help you do all the other shit that you got to do.
The thing
That was.
You go.
That was the exact line for me that, like, got me tearing up. It's like, a kid from Oakland running around believing in fairy tales, because, like, I'm a kid from a very small town in Missouri who would, like, look around at farmland and dream of, like, moving to Los Angeles and making movies, and I'm like, and I've done it. Oh my God, Killmonger's gonna die,
Yeah.
and he shouldn't have to die. He should get to see the dream. Like,
Is he dead?
Real quick, where in the Bronx?
Let's see. I grew up just outside of Co-op City.
Okay, Robinson.
Ah, there it is.
So for me,
I used to play ball at Co-op City.
you just got cut off.
Oh, this is fun. Let's just do this all the time. You want fries with that?
Are you done? Are you done?
for me, like super resonant is I saw it with a black friend on Thursday, and they keep asking, "Who are you? What's your name?" Like, cause the name you would have had you stayed on the continent is not the name you have now, and Like, that's why it's so jarring when Isaac de Bonco's character with the lip plate says, he's yelling, "What is your name?" Like, cause like and that goes to like deep fairy tale mythology shit, the power of the true name, right? Like, I know your real name. And that like, and again, with all that kind of black diasporan dynamics going on around that shit, like, was really meaningful. And again, it's like the scene I mentioned before at Warrior Falls, show him who you are. Like, this idea that the world as it is has obfuscated our true selves and disconnected them from our histories, like, it's super fucking powerful.
Everything in the astral plane really had me jacked up. I mean, first of all, it was shot so beautifully. It just looked gorgeous. But there was one line in particular when he goes in the first time and he sees his father and he's like holding his hand, he's down on his knees and he says, "Stand, you are a king." And I was like, my God, I just cried. I was like, oh my God. I feel like that was the message for everyone. You know, stand, you are royal, you are a king.
Real quick, to bring it home though, it's like what you know brought it home was at the end when T'Challa and Shuri they're in Oakland, and they're opening up the first Wakanda outreach center, you know, and it's like, so he brought the help. He listened, and he's like, I'm here, and you know, I'm starting here, and it's like, and it was like one of those powerful moments, like, oh snap, first world nation coming to a third world nation to help him out. Yeah. Fuck, we're the third world nation. Yeah. it's like
I mean, as a quick aside, it's a question I've had to deal with in writing Rise of the Black Panther. Like, Wakanda's there, right? Like, how come y'all fuck with the outside world? You know, some of the reasonings are similar to what's been said in the movie, but there's a scene between T'Challa and a major Marvel villain where that question gets raised and T'Challa has to give an answer.
Is it Howard the Duck?
Wow.
What you got, man?
Hey guys, I'm a film student as well, so I wanted to ask you what new characters you want to see in the sequel, because you know that the sequel is coming. I personally want to see Namor and Storm, if the deal is possible, because Disney is trying to. They bought Fox, but I really want to see Storm. And I also felt that I was missing Necropolis on this first movie. I think in the sequel, I really want to see Necropolis. I think there's a chance in there. I know that Ryan said that he doesn't want an Infinity Stone to be in this movie because it would take away the effect of Vibranium. But who knows? Maybe in Infinity War we'll see that Infinity Stone is in Wakanda. So I wanted to ask you guys about.
Okay, this one's for me.
All right, well, it's for all of us, but you get one. Don't be like, brrr, here's everybody I want.
And then you can have my time because I saw my character.
Point, thank you. I mean, I just wrote Namor and T'Challa in issue 2 of Rise of the Black Panther, and that shit was so motherfucking fun. Like, dude, oil and water, literally. Like, coconut oil and seawater. They're so fun because, yeah, people are like, they're both kings and they're both superheroes, but nah. The thing about, like, Namor is talks mad shit, talks so much shit. Super strong. He's been alive longer than T'Challa's, like, grandfathers, like, going back several generations. Like, and just, like, you know, he thinks surface world, like, I wrote an insult in issue 2. It was, T'Challa accused Namor of fucking around with Wakandan shit. He's like, what do I care for the dusty lives of surface folk? And I was just like, dust for an Atlantean must be the biggest insult. There's dirt all over me, what the fuck? Anyway, but like T'Challa's a complete polar opposite, right? He's considered, he's strategic, he's careful, he's compassionate. Like, I would love to have those two characters in conflict in an upcoming Marvel movie.
I was thinking about, you know, maybe they could throw Dr. Doom in there as well.
Well, you gotta, like you said, that's a big if because Fox is like, nah.
Yeah.
It's like they're gonna hold on to as much as possible. I mean, that's when you're just talking about legal troubles and entanglement.
Well, they're all big one happy now, but it remains to be seen like
so
how that.
far.
So,
yeah.
I just want to see Disney being like, you're trying to say no to me. How?
Yeah. Nah, it's like, what were you gonna say? I was gonna throw one out there.
I was gonna toss out Kraven the Hunter.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly Kraven the Hunter.
I think that that there's absolutely a world in which Wakanda, now being unveiled to the world at large, will draw trouble from afar.
Yeah.
And Craven, I think there's
Who would you cast?
Hugh Jackman.
Really?
Yeah. Nice.
Because he's not busy. But yeah, I just think there's a lot to say about, Hunter versus Prey. There's a lot of stuff to get into the your first real white villain in one of these. Like Claw isn't the villain in any real way in this movie. He's henchman at best. But to actually be able to play with those idea of valuing life and devaluing life and what is worth what, and I don't know. I just think there's a lot of fun to be had.
I mean, we just have to see Sony.
I like that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but hey, they are happy to play ball with Disney as long as they keep making them Spider-Man movies. So.
You guys named all the big ones, but I would say people I want to see more of, obviously more Dora Milaje, but I would say Io and Anika. There was a love story that was in Roxanne Gay's World of Wakanda that completely got skipped over.
And
so if there's room, I would love to see more of that in the next one.
The great thing about that story is it gave you a different angle on the monarchy. Like, what do people actually think about this dude who keeps on leaving the country and getting involved in shit?
Yeah.
My bonus answer, White Wolf, like the character of Hunter.
Which is who I got.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The entire movie, I'm like, Bucky is here somewhere. Why is he not like in the background of the lab?
In credits.
The end credits,
like
they call
just
him
a
White
frozen
Wolf.
tube in the back, like
Right, but they kind of gave Eric Killmonger White Wolf's backstory. It's like so there's going to be a different sort of White Wolf. I mean, I think that if he's going to be with the Hatsu Zaraze, that he will be maybe sort of like the elite force. Yeah. But the secret, because like that's what Bucky does best.
Awesome. All right, we got any more? Ooh, more.
Oh, more.
Whole lot of more.
The gentleman in red had his hand
Oh yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Comment, question. Be brief. I was able to, you guys were talking about like the energy, the emotion that you sort of exuded watching this thing on the screen. And I was pretty fortunate enough to go on set, for a little bit of time. And for the time that I was there, they were mostly focused on the Warrior Fall stuff. And there was a moment where, after standing in the blazing fucking Atlanta sun for all day, watching, them kind of go back and forth. This was when Michael and Chadwick were doing. There was just like a moment, man, where like everybody had stopped, and Ryan was doing Ryan things, checking some shot that wasn't working, but like looking around and seeing everybody on set, and again, before the movie came out, my expectations were high, but seeing these people on set, just even as extras, Angela, just everybody that was standing on the rocks, and I got to watch Forrest Whitaker die about 47 times. That was cool. But it was just a moment where like I felt myself tearing up, because it was just like, this is some shit that I've never seen before, even on film or on television or whatever. I've just never seen this moment before, but it was so crazy because I think my reaction was such a normal reaction that when I tried to watch, I kind of walked off the set and down the stairs, and one of the women, she said, "Come here, babe." She handed me a little towel, a napkin. She's like, and she's like, "Don't worry, it happens all the time." It was just like, it was a thing, just again that emotion. But all that aside, my question is, love the movie, got to see it on Thursday. I bumped up against something in the film, and Marc and I talked about it a little bit, but the whole arc of Killmonger, feeling like, though Ryan did a very great job, that his journey was, like there's a scene missing. There's a moment where, he goes through all of this shit, goes to the museum, gets the vibranium, blah, 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 then all of a sudden he's like, well, you know what, I'm gonna kill you, bang. He's gonna rescue Claw, and the whole thing, kills Claw, spoilers, and just takes him to Wakanda, drops him off in front of Daniel's character, and he's like, how the fuck, one, did you know to do that? And then two, why didn't you just do that shit in the beginning? So,
again, I don't want to make apologies for the film. Maybe he wanted to like gain Claw's trust to the point where like, you know, he could basically cap him like that. Have Claw's guard down. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told there's like a 4-hour cut of this movie somewhere.
Yes.
And
we
I'm
need that cut.
And I'm sure that in that cut,
yeah, for real. Fuck the Snyder cut. Release the Coogler cut.
But it feels as if there's a world in which so much of that story was Killmonger does not know how to get to Wakanda.
Yes,
he doesn't have the GPS coordinates.
Yeah.
He doesn't
so he
have
needs
the
Claw for it.
yeah, like he doesn't have the map that we see in his dad's things,
Yeah.
which is a really easy fucking insert shot to drop into a movie.
Yeah.
To then help explain how he knows where Wakanda is.
Yeah.
It feels like there was probably that was a long con
Cut for time.
Yeah.
to get him in there and be like, all right, and I need.
Yeah,
you.
I just assumed like once he popped Claw, he like took homie's iPad and was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there probably was another way to do it that would have required.
Probably listen to a
like,
SoundCloud mix. It was
Yeah,
make a left to the Cape.
Can we get back to the real quick? And I'm sorry, I just need 47 times you watched Forrest Gump. I was like, how many times? Like, no, that's not the one. It's like,
and the shit was that Forrest fell.
Yeah.
Almost all of those times.
Ouch. And he's a big dude.
He's a big dude, and he took it to the gut.
Did Michael? Did he use that same line, Uncle James, or did he change it up? He was like, "Bye, Carlson." You know, it's like.
I wish they'd have made that a bigger moment in the movie because, like, the first time I missed that line, and then I caught it the second time. It's like, oh, that's right. He would have known him.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Ghost Dog.
I am the last king of Scotland.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Oh, check out his shirt. Yeah.
I like it.
So I gotta say this event is amazing. I feel like I'm at like a Black nerd focus group. So I can stand up and say, hey everybody, my name is Joel, I cried too.
Hi, Joel.
Especially, when the plane comes down again, the little boys are looking at it and it's like, oh yeah, they are coming back to save us. That made me really emotional. And I was thinking about like how this would affect, young kids growing up and watching and seeing it. And I also got to thinking about how it would affect the older generation that lived through the civil rights movement. Like I have an aunt, she's an 80-year-old now, she's never seen a Marvel movie in her life, and she's like, hey, I saw this ad for like a sci-fi movie coming out with an all-black cast. You want to go see it? I was like, fuck yes. So she's a little too old for opening weekend, but we're gonna go next week. I was wondering if any of y'all like had any older generational relatives that you've taken to see it.
They're all dead.
Yeah.
Why'd you bring that up?
I'm 3,000 miles away from my parents, so it's a little hard for me to just swing.
Bootleg.
Yeah. But my mom texted me like a week and a half ago. My mom, who indulged my nerdery as a kid, but never really embraced it. It's one of those like, do you need these comic books? Because they're getting everywhere. Do I got to take another space movie? Can your father do that? But she texted me to be like, hey, so have you seen Black Panther yet? Now, I am not living there to tell her there's a Black Panther movie coming out. She's not inundated by it through me. I'm not her vector into Black Panther, but she knows. And she knows to ask me if I've seen it yet. And I told her that I haven't because I couldn't tell her that I met Ava DuVernay at the premiere because that would make her the most jealous mom you've ever known. There was a time, super aside, that I was working at the Hollywood Reporter and we had done a cover story on Oprah. And Oprah worked, the Oprah office's own was in the same building as the Hollywood Reporter. So just one day, she decides to roll up on the office, right? So,
That ain't right.
Ain't right.
You can't just do that.
Unannounced, Oprah shows up at the office. I, having closed the cover story the day before, took the day off. And so I just see on my social media, like all of the people working at me, and I can like track her through the office. Everybody's like, did Oprah just fucking walk by my desk? Why is everything shining a little bit brighter? Oh my God, I feel hope, and I'm waving to feel hope. And my mom was like, so I hear Oprah was in your office. Did you meet her? No. You had one job. Your one job was to meet Oprah and tell her that you mean everything to your mother. And you fucked that up and we're done now.
So Thanksgiving and Christmas canceled this year.
Pretty much, yeah. I get savings bonds now.
So Joel. It's Joel, right? Joel.
Joel. That's his Kryptonian name. It's Joel.
My parents divorced when I was really young. I didn't grow up with my dad. And we're like, we've kind of remediated our relationship a little bit. And as things have kind of ramped up with the movie, semi-coinciding with the issues of this comic book coming out. And I did a signing in New York City on January 19th. And some people I was expecting to come, when my dad showed up, I didn't grow up with him. I didn't know the extent to which that he knew what I did or cared or whatever. Like, we're friendly, but like, you don't have to be like a Black Panther nerd to like get into that shit. But he showed up to get a comic book signed, like that I wrote. And like, he did that because this movie exists, and he knows what it means. Like, not just for me, like, it means something for him too. And that, 2018 has been really, really surreal for me.
I wasn't ready to cry here.
Yeah, motherfucker.
I know, man.
Jesus.
I already cried at Black Panther earlier today.
You took us to the astral plane.
Yes. Speaking of, like, I actually talked to my mom earlier today because she's still back home in Missouri, and I had actually offered to fly her out this weekend so she could see it with me and my friends, and she was just like, no, it's okay, you don't have to spend the money. I'm like, but I will be hounding you to see this movie when it comes out, because normally she'll just wait till stuff comes out on video, and I'm like, no, you can't do that, not for this.
You can't know.
And so she saw it today, and she called me, and she was like, I loved it, it was so good. And she grew up in the segregated South, and she was just like, I really like Killmonger. I felt so bad when he died. I wish he hadn't died. Are they gonna bring him back? Like, they can bring him back. Like, her whole thing was like, Loki, like, has been dead multiple times. She was like, they can bring him back, right? I'm like, they're probably not gonna bring him back. But she was like, no, like, she really identified with his last line where he was like, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors. But for me, it was like, for the ancestral plane of it all, like, like, my dad was a Marvel nerd who raised me on comic books and action movies, and he died like 2.5 years ago. So for me, for all of these movies, it's been like, shit, he's not here. He's not here to see this. And like, his favorite character was Thor, and like I was crying in Thor Ragnarok because they finally got his favorite character right, and he wasn't there to see it. And then for this, it's just like, son of a bitch. So when they were on the astral plane and chatted, because like, that's not what I was talking about. It's like, I don't know how to live without you. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
And a pool of tears.
I teared up, and like, I tried to do that discreet thing where I'm like, they're not gonna yep, I'm wiping away tears. Tears. But yes, like, my mom loved it, and for me, it was just like, I wish my dad could have seen this, because like, I know just from the stories that he told me growing up in the segregated South as a kid, like, he went through some shit, and I know he would have appreciated this movie.
All right.
I told my mom, I'm like, look, I know, since you're Japanese, this one ain't for you. So, but since I'm working on a samurai project, when that comes out, I'll take you to see that.
Did you really?
Wow.
I always mess with my mom like that. Just like.
Question over here.
Yes. So if you're familiar with the Ta-Nehisi Coates thing, Dora, whatever, it seems like with Black Panther, it's the first Marvel movie that's kind of opened itself up to be a little gay. Do you think that
Thor and Hulk?
Well, do you think they're going to go anywhere with it, or if they should, or how do you think the Black community would receive it?
Look, think about how long you've been waiting, we've been waiting to see a Black Panther movie, to see Black glory, as Marc so brilliantly coined it in a piece he wrote. Like, you think queer people are not having that same wait? Ain't been waiting that long? Yeah. They've been waiting all this time. Like, it's overdue.
Yeah. And to that point, I would say it's like, it shouldn't be something, because I think there was a controversy with the movie that Okoye and
Io and Anika. Yeah.
Io and Anika were supposed to be flirting when they were going to the waterfall,
and they cut that scene.
It'll be in the 4-hour cut.
And so, but it's like, again, like, that would have just been a moment that anyone could have read anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they're gonna do it, they need to fucking do it.
That's a good point.
And like have the relationship and not like tiptoe around it so that they can sell it to, you know, conservative countries overseas. Yeah.
It is that long road though, right?
Yeah.
It's like remember back in the day when the Wesley Snipes movies, when it was just, what was the one, what was it, Drop Zone, or the Passenger 57 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
the one where he basically was with Yancey Butler, remember? And it was
Oh,
like it
yeah.
get all the way to the end of the movie, and then where, you know, normally the hero's supposed to kiss the girl,
Yeah.
she leans her head on his chest, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, we can't have that black man kissing that white woman. It's just like, it's not going to happen, you know. And it's sort of that sort of hesitation that you see, you know, and people keep trying to push it, but there's still people that are in charge that feel like it's all about that bottom dollar, and they're feeling nervous and, you know, skittish, and it's going to take somebody that's going to say like, no, absolutely not. We're going to actually have that moment in there, whether you like it or not.
Because this
It's
is
just
actually
like
the
that.
second time this has happened, because Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok was supposed to have been bisexual, and there was a scene in there with, I guess it's like the chick who she's watching die.
Yeah.
And like that sends her on her bender. Like that was supposed to have been her girlfriend, and they cut that scene.
Yeah,
'Cause
but I
it's
think
still Disney.
but if they're gonna do it, I feel like they should actually do it and not just do like a drive-by, like
Yes.
a little peck or whatever. Like they should actually have it be a real a kiss by,
This could be
whatever.
friendly, it could be sexual, who knows?
Yeah, actually make it a scene, a little story, like service it is what they should do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Marvel has put themselves in the pretty unique position in that we will watch whatever they do, no matter what. Like, and there was a world in which, yes, Black Panther was going to be this thing that was unavoidable. You could not see Black Panther. So it gets to be this just landmark moment in on-screen and behind-the-screen diversity, because they knew we were going to see it anyway. And it will take a LGBT creator to come in and say, here's the story I want to tell. I want to do She-Hulk. And you know what? My She-Hulk is going to be gay She-Hulk.
Sign me up.
And bam, like then it happens, because it's organic and it's part of the story, and Disney, Marvel will get behind it because it's integral to the way we're telling the story. I think they're the ones who are going to get that done. And whether it's going to be in Captain Marvel, who knows, and whether it's going to be Phase 12, who could America Chavez.
Yeah.
You know, but I think we get it. But Black Panther was an arc that was already filled to bursting with other things it had to do.
Yeah, because if it was a series like Black Lightning, right? Black Lightning, the eldest daughter, she's in a relationship with another girl. And what was great about it wasn't like this was a coming out episode where I'm going to tell my parents that
Yeah, it
I'm
was
gay.
just
You know, it
organic.
was like she was just it was just her relationship, and they treated that way, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't have to be this special fanfare that happens. It was just like it was a scene, we moved on. It's like, oh wow, she's with her girlfriend. Okay, cool. And then you just move on to the next scene. And with, you know, because that is how the world is, and it's not.
Yeah. Hey, what do you got, JC?
Entirely unrelated thing, but
Awesome.
I'm Native American. I'm Apache.
Respect.
Seeing this movie was really amazing. Like when I saw this movie, it was like, wow, like there's all this tribal respect going on in Wakanda, and there's all this stuff going on, and they're amazing. It's like this wonderland, like you guys were saying. It's like this utopia of you guys as people. And I was like, I've been like all weekend after I saw the movie, and then today all at work while I was working, I was just like, damn, there's nothing with my people at all. There's like, you got Man Without Bats, you got like, there's a couple of X-Men characters, and I'm not trying to like, ooh, but what I'm trying to say is like, what would you guys recommend to begin something to tell a cool story about my people, where to begin? And because all day I kept thinking about cool scenes, cool things that could happen, like fictitious things in the past, and like the 1800s and stuff. It's just like it could be cool action scenes and different things here and there, but like people being different tribes and stuff like that. But I don't know.
I can't get into it because we're right now in the middle of it, my writing partner, but we do have a pilot in the series that we're really going to try to push this year, and we've been trying to push for a long time, but now it's like, look, Black Panther, $400 million. Let's do this. Can we do this now, please? But yeah, one of the characters, it does take place in the late 1800s, and it takes place in the Five Nations, and it's in the Badlands, in the Twin Territories, and it talks about the light horse policeman, and so it's very. I can't, like I said, I really can't go into it, but definitely there is a character in there that's very important, and I think that if we're able to tell that, we'll be able to tell those stories. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll happen.
Yeah, I am currently on a show with 2 Native American leads for Netflix that will be coming out next year. It's supernatural horror, but
isn't Scout is in
Yes,
production?
yeah,
it's been in development at HBO for a while.
Yeah.
Is it HBO?
I thought it was
WGN
HBO.
for a
WGN.
while,
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that went away. And then
Damn.
But let me
WGN is no
I
longer-
love that comic book.
let me throw out the super corny answer. You can do it. Nothing that you just said right now obviates you from doing it.
That's
like
true.
You said, there could be cool action sequence. Like you can do it, and it's gonna be lo-fi, right? And it's gonna be like some shit you write on the blog, or it's gonna be but that's where it starts. I'm lucky enough to be writing a Black Panther series for Marvel Comics, but the only reason I'm writing is because I've had this shit in my head for years.
Right, you didn't go in there look, I'm deadly at martial arts, and and it's like I actually used to rule a kingdom, so I'm very qualified to write this.
No, absolutely. Evan's 100% right. That be the change you want to see in the world, and if you don't see what you feel is representative of your story, tell that story.
And truthfully, that's why we're all up here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what motivates us. That's what keeps us, that's keep us going. And you're no different. It's like if you have that story that you want to tell, and not to be selfish, saying well, I got mine, but my bad, I forgot. This is about you. It's yeah, they're absolutely right. It's like there's nothing to stop you, especially in this day and age. There's so many ways to get your story out there. You just got to tell your story.
And when I get to write the Storm movie, I'm going to put Forge in it, so everybody wins. What do we got over here?
Hey, good evening, my esteemed compatriots of the arts. I'm so glad to share this moment with everybody. I'm so thankful to hear you guys talk about your experiences and your love for the film and your personal experiences. My question for each and every one of you is, what was a moment in your career that was oppressive and annoying, bridging on embarrassing, and
We do not have time.
Yeah.
Are you asking what's our Warrior Falls moment as we're wrestling a giant guy and tell him yield?
But and if you could have, what was your way of either bypassing it or being as clever as Bugs Bunny and being able to turn it around on them, if that was possible?
Murder. No, I'm just kidding. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Really, don't. That's bad.
Well, now I think we have the tools. It's I'm just gonna start barking.
Yes.
I worked at a major weekly entertainment magazine. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah,
Which one could that be, Marc?
I don't know. It's like Vogue or something. And this was back in the early 2000s when Tyler Perry movies started to come out with regularity, and every February, which is when they seemed like they came out for reasons that escape me, we would end up writing this story that said, surprise, Tyler Perry movie makes $22 million and tops the box office. Next year, hey, news, Tyler Perry movie, #1 in the box office. Next year, hey, would you believe it? And I think I was a senior editor at the time, which sounds way more impressive than it is. But I eventually had to say, stand up in a meeting surrounded by, a bunch of white people, and tell them, guys, we cannot be surprised by something that happens every time. Like, it's just making us look bad. You know, like the idea of truth to power is a difficult thing to reckon with, especially when you're, 28, 29 years old and you've never had to do that before, but you believe that a thing that we're about to do is wrong, that I'm trying to save you from yourself, which much of my journalism career has been about in one fashion or another, trying to save magazines from themselves.
You're the magazine killer.
I'm the magazine whisperer, motherfucker. Yeah. I'm the Bag of Vance of magazines. Because
So you're the magical Negro?
I am the magicalest Negro you will ever find. Because I was almost always the only person of color sitting around those tables. And every time something would come down the pike, it would fall to me. I wish it hadn't every time, but to have to be the person to say, guys, we're making a mistake. Guys, this is kind of the wrong way. I swear to God, you're not going to want to print that. If you do, here's what's going to happen. And then when you run into magazines like, I don't know, major weekly entertainment magazines that do shit like put Black Panther on the cover of their magazine with a caption that says meow, and there's no black people working there, to be like, maybe don't infantilize the first black superhero, maybe don't diminish who this character is and what he means.
I thought that was a dream.
No, that really fucking happened.
I remember that.
Yeah, and the internet lost its fucking mind because there's nobody there to say, guys, I swear to God, you're not going to want to do this. Yeah. You think it's clever, it's a horrible idea. And I spent, a decent part of 20 years in journalism being the guy who had to say, I'm sorry, dear white people, this is probably a bad idea. So yeah, like it's sometimes it's embarrassing to have to wrestle with the total tonnage of a culture as the sole representative of that culture in a place. But if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Like if you don't, and I'm not the fucking hero of magazine journalism nor the killer of magazines, because, I did work at Playboy once. It's at some point you will find yourself in a position where you know what the right thing to do is. And I've not done the right thing a bunch of times, but every now and again, you gotta sleep with yourself before you sleep with anybody else.
Yeah, that sounds weird.
I wanted it to be weird.
You gotta be able to go to sleep at night. Yeah, sleep with yourself.
No. I want
really maybe you have to look yourself in the mirror. I don't know.
Yes,
now it sounds like you're sleeping with yourself.
Another metaphor.
Yes.
Yes. Why are you guys ruining my perfect metaphor?
I had the most, how when you feel like nerves and you feel that trickle of sweat from your armpit, like, yeah. So the one time for me was, does anybody here remember Resident Evil 5? Okay.
Which one was that?
That was the one in Africa.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Was it 4? Am I fucking it up? There's trauma around all of it. So my memory
they all blend together at a certain point.
I wish.
Zombies.
But so in my job as a video game journalist, I had to interview the lead of Resident Evil 5, and I had to put to him the question, why are these black people like this? Why do they look like zombies and freaks and living, walking stereotypes in this horror game? Like, why is the one playable black character, psychic character, 3 shades lighter than the people that she came from the same country? And like, I basically put to him, why are we subhuman in this game? And it was the hardest fucking interview I've ever had to do, because he stumbled, and like I tried to make him understand the weight of the fuck up. And there's a lot of noise made about cultural differences and how that stuff doesn't exist there in Japan. And it wasn't an embarrassing moment, but it was one like I felt like either you're walking up to this bridge, like, and you're jumping to the other edge that's broken, and you make it or you don't. But like, there's no way to not do it. I could have not done it. I could have walked away from it and been a puff piece interview. But like, I was the only person in the room who was gonna ask those questions.
Nobody else was embarrassed? Good for you guys. All right, we got time for one more question.
There's just too many to tell.
I know, like,
it's
yeah,
just
we.
like-
One minute to tell. Find me the cat ear lady. Oh, no, wait, you got the mic already. All right, then 2 questions. No.
Woo, woo. Better make it good.
Wow, I came a long way to ask this question though. So,
All right.
preface with, I'm here because I see the flyer. All you guys work on something I enjoy, especially Marc, Evan. I can't remember the name of the one that does it in the Badlands. I'm so sorry.
LaToya,
That's me.
You're amazing.
Kung Fu Queen.
But circling back to Black Panther, Marc said that he feel like T'Challa was the weakest character whenever he was seen. Recently,
Get 'em.
I've been going through a lot of the different runs with T'Challa, and he comes off very snarky, asshole-ish. He's really ready and at everybody's throats, except for in Coates' run, which the film takes a lot of reference from. And a lot of people say that Coates' run is the most political. And in the film, T'Challa is really kind of focused on growing in the political aspect of being king, which Marc said. Do you guys think that T'Challa's, I guess, focus, because not really focused, on being political is what made him the weaker character in this film?
Ooh.
I mean, like I've had to get into a headspace for T'Challa writing the comic, right? And one thing that separates T'Challa from Steve Rogers or Peter Parker, like his actions have like large scale repercussions, right? He's responsible for the whole fate of a people.
Yeah.
Like if he fucks up, it's not just like, okay, lick your wounds, go home and fight Doc Ock the next day again. Like Wakanda falls. The whole history and the legacy that he's trying to preserve his entire life, like, disappears. Like, and
It's like 10,000 years.
right,
Like,
yeah. And
like
there's
that's a lot.
there's a mode of thinking that I often fall back to, which is that most superhero characters are aspirational, right? They show us what we can achieve that are at our best and our worst, and the complexities of human nature, like when they're done really well. But also they maintain the status quo, right? Like most superheroes maintain the status quo. Like they uphold the laws of the land. Some of them interrogate whether those laws are just. But like you've never had a superhero overturn an unjust American election, right? They weren't trying to get Al Gore into office like back in the day. They weren't counting Chads. Like they maintained the status quo. So I feel like not to use that as an excuse, but it's an element of the framework. Within that, you can talk about the status quo, whether it's just or not. But I think the larger issue is that he has to consider not just his own wants and needs, but like what's best for the country. Killmonger was not considering what was best for the country. He was considering what was best for the diaspora, and even then it was an extreme mode. But I think there's something to what you're saying.
Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, fuck am I gonna do? Say it's better than that.
Let's go to the person with the cat ears.
Yeah. All right. So, last question. And before we do the last question, everybody in the house tonight, if you would like to go, we're holding
Getting a brand new car. Marc got deep pockets.
FYI, Deric said that. Deric is buying all you motherfuckers a new car.
It runs on vibranium, though.
There's a theater in Koreatown, the only one of its kind in the country, that is outfitted with ScreenX. Have you guys heard about the ScreenX? Where here's your movie screen like normal, everything goes cool. The theater is built then with wings on the side so that the visual information caresses you at like a 200-degree angle.
Sexy.
There's a screening of Black Panther on Wednesday that everybody who is here can go to for free.
Wait, does that include us?
That includes us. We RSVP to Black Panther ScreenX at gmail.com. It's 7:25 Wednesday night.
I work in Santa Monica, Marc.
Whoops. But yes,
Here's what when you walk out.
but if you'd like to go, Black Panther ScreenX at gmail.com. Email that address. They'll give you the information in the address. I will be there. I don't know if Kev will be there, but he might. But it's fucking free. So
That's dope.
And you will
Free
not
shit.
see it like this anyplace else in the country. So jealous. So come on down. So now No pressure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot of pressure.
Haha.
Sorry.
Yo, her shoes are glowing like they must be made in Wakanda. It's like.
Yeah, purple for Wakanda. And while you were saying that, I kind of got lost about what I was going to say. But at first, when Wonder Woman came out, that was amazing for me, and also sad because my mom had passed away a week after we got like advance tickets. And I was so proud to see it and thought she'd be so proud. After we saw Black Panther, though, I knew she would be so much happier to have seen that. Mostly because I think she thought she was Angela Davis. But
Everybody's mom does.
I could show you a picture of her and you would believe it. But how do you feel? Like, I know you spoke a little bit on it about the generation gap, but just with parents, but with all races. Like, how do you feel like between like 20-year-olds as compared to 50-year-olds?
I mean,
Are you asking us our ages?
Not at all. I'm closer to 50, so.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of that depends on who that 50, 60, 70-year-old person is. You know, like, I remember going to see Darkest Hour in the theater. You know, like a World War II Winston Churchill thing. At a matinee, because I'm gainfully unemployed. And I was sitting in this theater, you know, I'm not going to say it was sold out, but it was sold out, and they were all like 72-year-old white people.
Was this the Landmark in Westwood?
No, it was deep in the valley, but that sounds about right.
So you went to one of those screenings too, somewhere else?
Oh, yes.
No.
Like we've dubbed that the elderly theater.
Yeah. And so before Darkest Hour, the fucking Black Panther trailer spools up. And so I'm sitting there just looking around. Like, how are y'all digging this? How do you feel about it? What's happening? Are we cool with, right? And it's just like glass faces. Like one person was like, is that about Huey Newton? But, you know, like nobody got up and left because you were still getting like crusty ass Winston Churchill later. But that is not the audience that is going to naturally come to Black Panther unless one of their kids takes them. You know, and if one of their kids takes them, they're gonna kind of enjoy it because if you can swing with blue kittens in space, there's no reason you can't swing with black people on Earth.
Nice.
You know, like and my parents will go. I think
I'm so fucking stealing that.
But like, you know, there is a vast segment of the population who's never seen themselves. There's a vast segment of the population who's never seen themselves adjacent to. There's nothing in this movie that, again, is any different than Excalibur. You know, it's about, you know, royal succession. It's about thrones. It's about power. It's about hunger. It's about revenge. It's about isolation. It's
also about hope and inspiration, I think, because of the, you know, we didn't talk about it, but the Afrofuturism in it.
Totally.
And it's just like the promise of what could be, you
Totally.
know,
I mean,
and little kids looking at that.
It is about so many fucking things. And if you're a person who enjoys content of any kind, you will find something to enjoy in this movie. You just have to open yourself up to it. And that is where I fear the generational divide will take place, is the unwillingness to open themselves up to what is a profoundly moving cinematic experience. I wish they would. You know, it would help the next 2 years go down a bit easier.
I know, but isn't there a part of you just saying, like, fuck them, we can't save them all? You know, and it's just like...
Like the Killmonger way?
You are not wrong. You are not wrong about that.
That is the Killmonger technique.
I ain't got time. I ain't got the energy anymore, man.
Get them chips in the air.
But here's the thing.
Change
I don't
don't
have
come,
to
man.
have the energy. The movie has
all
the
that
energy.
shit's over.
The movie's going to do all the goddamn heavy lifting. All I got to do is say, you know, it's a really good movie, Black Panther. You should check it out.
Thank you.
My pleasure. That is it for this episode of Fat Man on Batman. Did you guys have a good time? Wakanda forever! I would like to thank our esteemed fucking panel, Deric Hughes. Where can they find you on the internet, Deric Hughes?
Follow me on Twitter at DBlackanese.
Because you're black and Japanese.
That is correct. Shout out to my Asian folk.
Yes. Evan Narcisse, where can they find you?
I'm Twitter, Evan Narc. EVNARC. I write for IO9 just about every day.
What are you doing?
I want to do a little bit of this, but it's not working.
No, so turn it off, man. I get
Now
it.
you're gonna do all the stars.
I know.
Right? That's the song.
The score has got me right here, right now.
Yeah.
And Rise of the Black Panther is coming out monthly from Marvel Comics.
What channel is that on?
I wish. Make that shit happen, Deric. Yeah, wherever you buy fine comic books.
Akela Cooper.
Yes, you can find me at Akela Cooper on Twitter. I worked on a show that shall not be named for legal reasons right now, but should be dropping this year with a certain bulletproof character.
Whoa.
I mean, you can mention it's on your fucking IMDb page. It's not
I
like it's
know.
a big
What are you
secret.
talking
Is it
about?
like seriously, you guys? You have no idea how paranoid Marvel is. I signed an NDA, but it's Luke Cage season 2.
There you go.
Excellent.
Girl.
And LaToya Morgan, where can the people find more of you?
Yes, Twitter and Instagram, Morganic Inc. That's what I am. And Into the Badlands, new season, dropping in April. Get ready.
Excellent. And I have been Marc Bernardin for this episode of Fat Man on Batman. Same bat time, same bat channel. Come back next week. Smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Good night!
Big ups to Marc Bernardin.